Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Wednesday edition. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. Please like, share, and follow our Facebook pages. Subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, our website, nessp.info, for all the information on our shows, guests, bios. The Wall of Fame is over there. We've got stores and links to those stores. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, together bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mac. How are you?
Not too bad, Jack. I mean, we take our 2 days off where we can kind of, readjust, do some work on some certain things, booking more guests, working on different more bits, digging up more information. But in Monday and Tuesday, we do miss a couple things. So I want to kind of bring that up. But first, folks, we have the Philly sports guy on today coming around 8:30. And then we got a special guest who we will try to get on every week as a Major League Baseball analyst and expert. And that'll be Brett Kell from Binging Baseball. So that's his site, and we'll have him on later and talk about it. So the Canadiens win 3-2 in overtime, Jack. And Montreal goals come from Josh Anderson, who's having a great playoff season, and Alexander Romanov. They both scored for the win. Now, I think this is part of the master plan, Jack. I mean, the Cinderella story is still in effect, right? They had to go down 3-0 for this really to be a Miracle on Ice professional version. So, 2 more games to tie, Jack. They got to win one at a time. They're still alive.
Miracle on Ice, Mac. It's luck on ice. Luck on ice. It should be over. It should be a sweep already. 3 of the Tampa Bay Lightning shots either hit the post or the crossbar. They should have been goals by a tiny fraction of an inch. The Lightning were deprived of 3 extra goals, and they only needed 1 of them in regulation to send the Canadiens. I don't want to say send the Canadiens home. The Canadiens were already home. So
Right.
Their bags were, unpacked and everything. They didn't have to go anywhere, the Canadiens. It should have been all over. There should have been a parade for the Lightning today. That's what should have been going on. They shouldn't have to be playing hockey. Okay, so the Canadiens, very, very fortunate in that game. But listen, give them credit one way or the other. They got to win, and now we go on to Game 5. And if the Canadiens should upset the Lightning in Tampa today, then we've really got a series. But you want to know something? The Tampa Bay mayor said before Game 4, she's hoping the Lightning maybe don't go all out. How nice it would be if they could clinch at home instead of being in Montreal. That's foolish talk, but you got to wonder, Mac, in the back of a player's mind, even though they're trying to win, even though all the Lightning players want to sweep, they want to wrap it up, they want to get the cup, they want to get it over with. You kind of wonder subconsciously, are they thinking, well, if we lose, that might not be such a bad thing because then we can clinch at home after all.
It's great blackboard material for the Canadiens also, Jack, saying, well, they're saying they're taking it easy on us so they can play back at home. I would light a fire under my butt if I was one of them. So anyway, the Suns beat the Bucks. They have a 1-0 lead, of course. They won 118-105. Chris Paul with 32. Booker with 27. Ayton with 22 points and 19 rebounds. Giannis did play. He had 20 and 19. Middleton had the point lead for the Bucks at 29 points. They won 2 games without Giannis. Giannis comes back, played a good game, no doubt about it. But do you think maybe the Bucks, when Giannis is there, kind of take their foot off the gas and watch Giannis work? And that's always one thing you've got to worry about when you have a superstar, Jack. I mean, Giannis can get 50 points, and they still can lose.
Yesterday's game made one thing apparent. For the Bucks to have any chance of winning this series, they can't just have a decent Giannis. They have to have Giannis at his very best. And Giannis wasn't that yesterday. I know he grabbed 17 rebounds, but he wasn't the force offensively that he normally would be. He wasn't cutting the middle with the reckless abandon. Now, Giannis's game is to just keep taking the ball to the basket, just running through the opposition. He's done that better than any player since a young LeBron James, who would take it right to the basket and would be unstoppable. Giannis is unstoppable when he's driving to the basket. And he wasn't doing it the same way yesterday. It was as if it was a trial run for him to test the knee out. So in a way, it was like a hard practice session for Giannis, the actual game. And you got the feeling when the game was over, Giannis was satisfied. Not that obviously that the Bucks lost, but he was happy. Now he sees, hey, I can really push it from now on in. The knee is holding up. I'm feeling okay. I can play like my old self moving forward. And like as you mentioned, for the Suns, Chris Paul just played a great game. But I don't look at Chris Paul as a superstar type player that's going to carry a team. But the good news for the Suns is Devin Booker could step up at any time. Devin Booker played well yesterday, but Devin Booker is capable of playing great. And I think he's going to have a couple of those games in this series before it's over.
Good morning, Tom. Glad you joined in as you do every morning. We appreciate it. You know, Jack, it still leads me to question. Again, Giannis can have 50 points and the Bucks can still lose. So the team play they had without Giannis there impressed me a lot. Sort of like, I mean, you look at Chris Paul, but the Suns are more of a team play-oriented team. They got a couple stars on there, but their offense and defense have set plays. You can have almost anybody step in there off the bench. They don't miss a beat. The Bucks don't. The Bucks seem to have that when Giannis did not play. So, would it? I might have, Jack. I might have let Giannis sit for the first game to see what happened, to give him a little extra rest and see how the Bucks matched up against the Suns without him. Because to me, if Giannis scores 40 points for the next 3 games and they lose, it really doesn't mean anything.
I mean, Giannis wanted to play. He worked hard in his rehab. I don't question the coach. Had Giannis gotten injured in that game, then maybe you could question whether the Bucks brought him back too soon. But they're in constant communication with the player. They're looking over him very carefully. As it turned out, they really didn't rush him back. I mean, missing yesterday's game, it's only a 7-game series, best 4 out of 7. I love it when people say, well, the team can afford to lose a game. There's plenty of time. There's not plenty of time in a 7-game series. Every game's crucial, and especially you want to get out to a 1-0 lead to, get a handle on the series. You kind of wonder about the other players. You said relying too much on Giannis. I can't say they did that yesterday, but you wonder someone like P.J. Tucker. He played a ton of minutes, only had 6 shots, 3 rebounds. He was like a non-entity, basically a non-entity, on the court. And, you need guys like him to step up and be like his old self, like he's been earlier this playoffs in certain games against the Hawks and the Nets before that.
Okay, well, yeah, listen, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I picked the Suns to win the championship a long time ago. But I was hoping, Bucks are from the East. I was kind of hoping that they would maybe win a couple. I hope they do. I still think the Suns win this series, Jack. Richardson, your girl with the beautiful hair, you said.
Sha'Carri Richardson. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up.
She's not picked for the relay. So she's not going to compete in the Olympics at all. A shame, I guess. People say a rule is a rule, whether it's stupid or not. I guess that's true. But it's a shame. 4 years down the drain, Jack.
It's a shame the United States Olympic Committee. It's pretty pathetic. And it's pretty pathetic. She smoked marijuana. It's against the rules. It's a 30-day suspension. Fine. A 30-day suspension would have been up by the time the relay's being run in Tokyo. But now they're saying, well, when she ran the Olympic trials, Her times have to be wiped off the books. So they're making it out like she never participated in the Olympic trials. Well, she didn't. She won. Not allowing her to run in her individual event I hate to use the word punishment, okay, but we'll use it here, was punishment enough, and it more than fit any mistake she made. It more than, dealt with that. And the individual 100-meter event, that's the glamour event for the fastest female run in the world. And she was deprived of running in that. So she has the relays left. They easily could have let her run in the relay. The discipline would have already taken place. But now they're taking that away from her. For what? For smoking marijuana? For a 30-day suspension type thing? I mean, it's weak. It's pathetic. It's sickening. And I hope the United States Olympic Committee, they come under scrutiny, not just for this, for other decisions they've made, other mistakes they've made. And I hope the International Committee does as well. I hope there's a big uproar about this and this decision backfires on them, because they could have easily let her run the relay, and it would have been the right thing to do also. It's just pathetically sad. What? Because she smoked a joint of marijuana that's legal in 18 states. That is not a performance-enhancing drug.
No, it's not. In fact, Jack, a little sidetrack note here. I was catering an event at a concert where it sure was not illegal. I mean, I think I almost got high just being at the event without smoking anything. So, I agree with you. I mean, listen, it's crazy. But guess what, Jack? I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't watch Olympics. It's political. I told you that. I told you that with basketball. It's that way now with this. It's all political. It's all about the social and the country issues. And that's why I don't watch it anymore.
Mac, let me tell you, they had Roy Jones, the International Olympic Committee, I believe it was. They had him speak in front of people recently. And Roy Jones wanted to know, well, where's my gold medal? This was from 1988 when he was robbed of the gold medal. Roy Jones was named the outstanding boxer of the 1988 Olympic Games, but he didn't win a gold medal. How could he be the outstanding boxer? That was their way of acknowledging he was robbed. After he was robbed, one of the judges said, well, I thought he beat the South Korean boxers so badly, I didn't want the host country to be embarrassed by getting shut out, so I gave my vote to the South Korean boxer. And that resulted in Jones losing 3-2. It was so idiotic. And they have the audacity the Olympic Committee to ask him to speak in front of people. I mean, such hypocrisy going on. And this thing with Sha'Carri Richardson, it's really sickening. I hope there's a big uproar about this. And I don't want to see the Olympics get tainted to the point where it hurts other athletes. But I wouldn't mind this hanging over the Olympics and people harassing the International Olympic Committee and the United States Olympic Committee about this by constantly questioning them all through the Olympics.
And in other news, Jack, before we bring up Pags for the Philly update, Italy advances to Euro final. That's all I got to say about soccer. So right now, let's bring the Philly sports guy up and see what's going on. How you doing, Pags?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Not too bad. Before we get to the update, I want to do what we do every week, Jack. We have our Wall of Fame. And Pags, we're in our pictures now. And, of course, we'll go back in history first. Then we bring up to the modern day because, you want to make sure that your Wall of Fame is legit, right? You want to make sure that you get all the big stars in there first. So, our second pitcher, first one was Cy Young with a 511 wins. Is that right, Jack? It was ridiculous. And the Cy Young Award, of course.
Well, it is ridiculous. 511 wins.
Yes, it is. He was pitching every day. And so our second pitching inductee is the great Walter Johnson, Big Train. He had a lot of nicknames, but I'll tell you right now, he was one powerful. According to what I read, Jack, He was one powerful guy. So, remains the all-time career leader in shutouts with 110, second in wins with 417, and fourth in complete games with 531. Held the career record for strikeouts until Nolan Ryan passed it. One of the greatest pitchers of all time. Big Train Walter Johnson. So, Jack, how can you not have a Wall of Fame of pitchers and not have Walter Johnson on it?
You know, you just put up something, Mac, that was very revealing and very thought-provoking to me. I always thought the hardest record in baseball to break, the one that would never be broken, was Cy Young's 511 wins. I still feel that way. But when you take a look at 110 career shutouts, if one of those records was going to get broken, okay, by some tiny chance, I think now it's more likely that Cy Young's 511 wins someone could eclipse. 110 shutouts. Pitchers aren't going 9 innings these days with pitch counts. And can you imagine, is anyone going to go 110 complete games again? That's the question. And if they do go 110 complete games, how many are going to be shutouts? Only like a fraction of them would be shutouts, even with the greatest of pitchers. And Walter Johnson, I mean, to call him the Big Train, I mean, it's a catchy nickname, maybe the Big Plane, the Big Tank, the Big Bulldozer, something, you know. Well, a train might be more powerful than a bulldozer going forward, but whatever the most powerful force of all, I mean, Walter Johnson, you know, you could argue he was, I mean, a different era from Cy Young. You can argue he ushered in the eras of great pitchers. He was the guy, and then everyone else followed. You can make that argument.
Right? I don't know if you ever read up on Walter Johnson or you're familiar with him, Pags. I would imagine you are, being the sports guru you are too. I mean, this guy was one of the hardest throwing guys of that era. Now, they didn't have radar guns back then, but we're going to show a little video of him in a minute. You got any thoughts on the great Train himself?
The thing that stands out to me the most is the fact that he had 114 complete game losses. Just from looking at what you wrote down there, it's like that he was doing complete games. And see, and it's when you say complete game, complete games were a lot different back then. That means some of them were 13, 14, 16 innings. They didn't distinguish between 9 innings and 12 innings. A complete game was a complete game. So there's probably a number of games in there that he lost, possibly lost 0, like 1-0 in the 14th inning. In those complete game losses. And that's what really stands out to me. Obviously, I wasn't around when Jack was watching this guy. You know, Jack was probably a teenager, you know, when he was pitching. But you know, that's what really stands out to me. Like when I think of those types of things, and when you think about complete game losses and having that many, that's a big deal.
Sure.
Let me tell you, the mindset was so different then. They had to let pitchers go 9 innings. If a pitcher was taken out before getting a complete game and someone had to come in from the bullpen, even though the reliever would save the game, it was thought of the mindset as well. The pitcher didn't succeed. He wasn't successful. Listen, I remember even as late as 1973 with Tom Seaver, the 5th game of the playoffs to decide who would go to the World Series. He left the game with 1 out in the 9th inning with a 7-2 lead over the Cincinnati Reds, and Tug McGraw came in to nail it down with 1 out in the 9th. And I remember someone saying, Seaver can't win the big one. He needed McGraw to come in to bail him out. Well, in this year, 2021, they would think, oh, what a great clutch game by Seaver. I mean, the mindset is different. You know, revisionist thinking, especially when Walter Johnson pitched, you know, there was no such thing as relievers really coming in. It had to be the most distressing of situations for reliever to come in. There was no such thing as specialists, closers. I mean, the first true closer may have been Goose Gossage coming in during that time, the mid-'70s. But, when Walter Johnson pitched, and I don't think those guys even took pitch counts. He may have been pitching 160, 170 pitches a game for all we know.
Well, let's share it at home for people. We do have video of Walter Johnson that Jack took with his iPhone way back when. So we'll go ahead.
I had a flip phone until 6-7 years ago, Max. Come on, I'm not.
So anyway, let's see if I can bring that video up and we can check out the great Walter Johnson. Let's see.
When you get out there and a base hit might hurt you and a good batter up or something like that, well, then you want to throw him a curve if you have a real good curve. If you have a better fastball than you have a curve, if you have a real good fastball and not a very good curve, I'd throw him the fastball.
And you'll see he's a sidearm pitcher, believe it or not. I don't know why he's buffered on me so much, but let's see if I can bring it back up here. And there's Babe Ruth stepping in against the train himself. Ruth was a big dude, man. And as you see here, guys, was his pitching style. He came sidearm and across his body. So
I didn't realize he was a half of a sidearm pitcher, call him, not completely, but
like 3/4 almost.
Yeah.
But that was his throw in motion. He pushed off that back foot. He was 6 foot. I forget what the exact how big he was, but see the mound's a lot lower back then too, right? So that's kind of his pitching style. And this is 1924 World Series. So the 12th inning, as you say, complete games, right? So here we go. 12th inning playing in the World Series 1924.
I love watching the stands sing the way they're packed, those old-time ballparks.
And there's your good friend there, Jack, the President of the United States. And as Pack said, extra innings, he's in there still. So, and I guess he closed it out, having the guy pop up here. So, again, guys, the great Walter Johnson, there he is.
You mentioned the president being at the game. It used to be a tradition whenever the Washington Senators played, the president of the United States had to attend the game. It was always on his calendar. Can you imagine in this day and age, the Washington Nationals are playing and whoever the president is has to go to the Washington National opening game? I mean, it's not the same as it was then.
No doubt. But as Pack said, the World Series won extra innings. He's in there. He's playing. Good morning to you, David. Glad to see that you could join us this morning. So, Pax, let's get to our Eagles update, spotlight, review, recap. I mean, there's 100 different words I can use. And let's start off with the Phillies, if we could, right? You had the Phillies won last night. They're 6-4 in the last 10 games. Have crept to 4 games behind the Mets. They took 2 out of 3 from San Diego, very good team. They went up 2-0 on the Cubs. I mean, they're showing a little potential. What do they do with the trade deadline? Do they start letting players go and call quits, or do they come back and try to make the team better?
Well, it's interesting. I was listening yesterday to the pregame before, as I was driving home from my softball game, and they had the general manager on. who's now the president of the Phillies, and he was actually really honest, but he didn't make the trip this time around because they're having their scout meetings, and he was pretty honest about the fact that he still wants to see what happens here on this road trip. Now, the Phillies have done something that they haven't done since 1979, and was to score more than 13 runs in a game back to back.
Right.
The last time they did it was in 1979 against the Cubs, interestingly enough. So it was, it's the fact that the bats are starting to get hot a little bit, that they have a sense of urgency within the dugout and within the, amongst the players, that they realize that they are much better and have a lot more in them than what they have shown. It's going to be an interesting 3 weeks. My expectation is that they are going to be small buyers, not big buyers, that they are going to need to try to change the bullpen. And to be honest, changing the bullpen may be enough. If they were to get a couple of good bullpen help where they didn't have to spend a lot of their resources, because they don't have a lot of resources to begin with. But the way that these bats would start, if they started to get a little hot, just a little hot, and they had somebody who was able to actually pitch in the back end of this rotation, like just in the back end of the rotation and in the back end, like the 8th and the 9th inning. I mean, they've lost 24 save opportunities. 24 save opportunities is ridiculous in this day and age in baseball. It's almost unheard of and impossible, almost, but the Phillies are able to do it. You take half of those games and they'd be up by 8 games. They'd be up by 8 games in the East. So that all being said, my expectation is that they're going to be small buyers, and they're going to try to look for bullpen help and maybe a 4th or 5th starter.
Let me ask you this. Do the Phillies have the chips if one of the teams that's going to be out of it are looking to move one of their relievers who's a quality reliever? I have no clue which team, but if they're interested in dealing that reliever, that the Phillies have the chips, the young prospects who they would be willing to part with.
So out of all of the, when you're trying to get a big name bat or a big name starting pitcher, the prices are skyrocketing. That's a skyrocket price. When you're talking about now, even a closer, like if you were talking about a heavy duty closer, that may actually warrant some extra stuff. You know what I mean? Where you need to give like a blue chip prospect. My expectation here is that, when you're talking about middle relief or even a 7th or 8th inning guy, that the chip, it doesn't need to be so high, that you could give like a 2nd tier prospect and possibly do that. Send a couple of 2nd tier prospects into their farm system, so let their coaches kind of deal with it, where it's not the same as trying to pick up a big name bat or a good starting pitcher that's going to be able to give you 6 and 7 innings each time out. And that's the difference, I think. I think that they do have the pieces to be able to acquire bullpen help. I don't think they have the pieces to be able to acquire a starting pitcher or even a heavy closer or even an extra bat.
I mean, I guess you're right. I don't know if going halfway really. I mean, to me, you're saying, well, we're going to get a smaller kind of reliever for a smaller price. I mean, that you have to catch lightning in a bottle with something like that, Pags. I mean, if you don't have anybody down in the farm system, and believe me, middle relief is very important. I mean, a lot of games have won. Teams have won World Series because of their middle relief, not so much their closer. I mean, if you can't get to the closer, it really doesn't matter. So
I agree with that. I just think that the stock there isn't as much stock put into that as there is. Where you're having, like, if you're trying to get a big bat, you're going to have to pay high price. When you're talking about a middle reliever on a team that is rebuilding now, and somebody who's got a 3 ERA, who's pitched in about 35 games and has done pretty well for that team, but hasn't really, that team's not going anywhere. They can get a couple of prospects that they can put in their system to start to try to rebuild that system a little bit for a guy who they're not going to really need anyways, because he's a middle relief on a team that's only got 30 wins right now. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at where you're the Indians. I mean, right now there's only 5 teams in the National League that are above 500. So it's like that. I mean, there's 6 teams going to the playoffs from the National League. So the Phillies are still kind of in this here a little bit. And like I said, if they just had somebody who could close out these games where they're not blowing these saves over and over and over again, all of a sudden you'd wind up seeing that they would, they may be in first place. Now, this is the time where they start to actually contend, and then they've trailed off in September. September is going to be a big deal this year. So I want to see them. I want to see them hold serve in September.
Oh, in the East, you guys are you'll be in the end of the race until about the final 2 weeks. I believe that. You know what I mean? So anyway, good morning to you, David Miranda. Glad to have you aboard. Yeah, and Harper's starting to get a little hot too for you guys, which is good for you guys having Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it'd be great if he had somebody on base when he hit a home run.
That's true. It's true. But hey,
I've never even heard of it. The guy's hit 14 home runs, all solo. Solo. That's ridiculous. That's unheard of.
Well, the other players got to get a base back.
Well, no, but doesn't that seem ridiculous that not one of his home runs has got somebody on base? Not one of them?
5 hits yesterday. I mean, Jake Arrieta, I guess the Phillies don't miss him much.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy they smacked him around. And then he got on saying, yeah, my stuff is still there. Your stuff hasn't been there for 4 years. You stole money from the Phillies.
So let's talk a little about the Eagles here. Getting a little upset, Pax. Calm down. So the biggest question, I think, for the Eagles is Hurts. And, that's not just the Eagles' problem. If you look at the whole NFC East this year, right, you got Dak Prescott. Is he 100%? Can Daniel Jones hold on to the ball? Fitzpatrick, can he be a legitimate starting quarterback for the whole year and lead the Washington Redskins to the playoffs? So I think every team has quarterback questions this year. It's not just the Eagles. Hurts will, of course, with his mobility, he'll be able to put a little pressure on the defense. The defense may have to play zone so they can keep an eye on him instead of man-to-man when they got his back turned to him. But I think this is going to be the most important part. Your offensive line's backpack. Your defense is okay. Defensive backs, we'll see. But I think your defense is pretty good. But I think it's all going to fall on Hurts. If Hurts can be more accurate than he was last year, I think you guys got a shot. If he can't, if he's got some more growing pains, which he really didn't play a full year last year, then you guys are going to be in a little bit of trouble.
All right, so I'm going to give you another little tidbit here that you're going to laugh at me, or you're going to play your little soundbite there. He's going to be the best quarterback in the NFC East.
Who's that?
Hurts.
Who?
So Hurts.
Hurts.
Exactly.
It hurts me to hear that.
So let's talk about who he's going up against. His biggest competition really is Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott's coming off of an injury that, like I says, every player that has any type of injury when it comes to their legs, it takes a year of playing before they get really comfortable again about doing it. And I know that Dak, as much as he wants to get back and he wants to do these things, it's going to take him a little bit of time to progress. There he goes. There's your music. So
I don't think you can label it takes a year of rehab, whatever. It happened during the season. It's not like he's getting injured in season and coming back late in the season. And also, Dallas has more offensive weapons than the Eagles have.
Well, yeah, but he's not going to be able to move like he did last year. Before he got hurt, he was able to be a lot more mobile. He's not going to be able to do that this year. And I don't, as far as the offensive line goes for Dallas, it's not as great as it used to be. So that's number one. I think that he's the biggest competition to Hurts in the division. Then you have
Competition too hurt.
Fitzpatrick, right?
He played 3 games back.
And wait, Hurts hasn't merited, as much as I like Hurts and I've always liked him, he hasn't merited being the man that he has competition to him. He has to be competition to someone else. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I mean, that was some talk in Philadelphia.
You asked me. You asked for my opinion. You asked for my opinion on this. On who's going to be the best one in the East, and I'm telling you who I think.
I like Jalen Hurts, but he's not the man in anything. He's not the man even in Philly. They're talking about competition with Jalen Hurts. I mean, if he's the guy, they wouldn't. No one's talking in Dallas competition for Zach Prescott, but they're talking about that way in Philadelphia for Jalen Hurts.
Tags, I love you. I mean,
you're worse than Jim Jeffcoat.
I tell you, it's going to be so fun when I get to shove it in you all this in your face. I'm going to come on with my pom poms and big signs saying, "I told you."
Oh man, I will save that quote. That he will be the best quarterback. I will, Buck. Don't worry. I'm going to say
in the NFC East. I'm not talking about in the whole NFL. I'm talking about in the NFC East.
I wouldn't be completely shocked. I wouldn't be shocked per se. Don't misunderstand me. I do like Jalen Hurts. I think he has upside. I mean, I think he has these really good leadership qualities. He has intangibles. Okay,
I don't even know that yet. He played 3 games, I think. How do we know? I mean, don't get me wrong. He's an athlete. He had a good college career. He went in there because Wentz is gone. I mean, he was forced to play. Hey, listen, man, I love his guts. I love that he can move with the ball. I mean, how can we just sit back and say he's got tremendous upside? I don't even know that yet.
They're getting a supporting cast around him. They drafted with Jalen Hurts in mind.
I still got to see at least 8 games, half the season for the man. I mean, we're anointing him the best quarterback in the NFC East. Fitzpatrick is better right now than Jalen Hurts. Jones.
Hold on. Fitzpatrick has had how many playoff games?
He's had
how many playoff games has Fitzpatrick played? Come on, Fitzpatrick sucks. He sucks. That's why he's played on 28 teams.
He has a better career right now.
Because he's played for 45 years.
Thank you. But at least he's playing in the NFL, Pags.
Well, this kid is only 21 years old. What are you talking about?
These words can haunt you. By next season, Fitzpatrick might be on the Eagle roster. You never know. He moves all over the place. He's due to land in Philadelphia.
Oh, my Lord. God forbid. God forbid.
Listen, Pags. I mean, I'm not taking nothing away from Hurts. I just don't know yet. I mean, for you to come on stage to be the best, I mean, all right, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's like I said, I think you asked my opinion. I think I believe that he is going to be the best in the NFC East. Now, that doesn't say that he's going to be even in the top 10 of quarterbacks by being the best in the NFC East.
NFC East right now, to me, he's 4th until he plays back. Until he plays, he's 4th right now.
Well, that's you know what? And that's what all the pundits and every media outlet everywhere in the world has got the Eagles finishing under, like well under 500, like 4 wins, 5 wins. I'm going to love it. I am going to love it when we win 8 or 9 wins. I think that, like I said, I always said 9 and 8 with the possibility of going 11 and 6. My opinion. Now, like I said, they have a ton of speed at the wide receiver position. And as long as he's got an arm that can hit the guy, like I said, the fastest guy on the field, they didn't even use last year, Quez Watkins. You're going to watch that guy really excel, especially because now we've got, like I said, we got Rager, but really we've got the best wide receiver from the draft this year. And I tell you, when you put those 3 out there on the field, they're going to be able to spread the field a lot. And then you're going to have Sanders being used a lot more too. You're going listen, Ertz went into camp. Look at Zach Ertz is back in camp now. So
they're looking to get rid of him, though. He could be dealt at any moment.
You know what? It doesn't matter. He's back in camp now.
For the Eagles anymore.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know what? So he was the starting tight end last year. Now Dallas Goedert is. And you know what? That means he's going to be the second one. You know what? They play a lot of 2 tight end sets. So what's the difference whether he's the starter or he misses a couple of snaps? He's not the great blocker anyways. Dallas is a much better blocker than he is. So realistically, he's a better number 2 tight end anyways. But the best tight end, I thought the best tight end on the field last year for the Eagles was Rodgers.
I
So
agree.
that just, if you, in my personal opinion. So
I agree.
realistically, the best tight end who I think that's on this roster right this second is still listed as third in the depth chart.
Joe Montana said one thing, and Joe Montana couldn't run. He sure couldn't throw the ball 100 yards in the air. He said the most underrated stat in as a quarterback's accuracy. And we see that right now with Jackson, and we see that with a few other quarterbacks. I mean, you could run all you want, but you got to be able to throw the ball in between guys and read coverages and all that stuff. And right now, Pags, all I'm saying is Hurts ain't there yet. I'm not saying
well,
he won't.
You are correct. You are correct. We don't know, and because we don't know, everything is okay. I'm taking a shot. I put something out there for you. I know that you like to keep sound bites on me to make sure that you can shove them back in my face a little later. That's okay. I remember. I got thick skin. I can take it.
I know you do. That's why I mess with you.
First off, I like Jalen Hurts. Okay, let me be honest about it. He has a pedigree in the sense he was successful at Alabama and Oklahoma. When the guy's a really successful college quarterback, I really think they can usually always bring it up to the NFL as long as they're in the right system. As far as the Eagles system goes, I think it's a little unique in Philadelphia because I think they're one of the few NFL teams where the shots are being called by the front office, not by the coach, okay? I mean, most front offices, they make the decisions which players, then leave the coaches alone. I get the feeling Sirianni, has to explain all his moves to the front office, and he's constantly under scrutiny, much like they do in baseball today, where manager can't make up the lineup according to the way he always wants to. He has to explain it and get permission from the GM.
Well, just going on that thought process alone, that means the last game last year had nothing to do with Doug Peterson, right? Just on what you said right there, that last game had nothing to do with Doug Peterson. Correct?
I don't know. Sudfeld being the quarterback, I think it was picked up by the Niners. I mean, when the game was really slipping away from the Eagles, were they thinking of the draft choice? I mean, they could have easily put Hurts back in. If Hurts is going to be a quarterback going forward, how could he not play that whole game? I didn't understand the logic of it unless they were doing it for the draft choice. And I got to admit I was wrong about this. At the time, I said, what's the big deal between picking number 9 and number 6? Well, there is a difference. It turned out to be somewhat significant because the Eagles were able to maneuver and trade and do something because they had moved up 3 slots as opposed to had they won the game. Obviously the players on the field didn't tank the game. They were trying to win it. But not having Hurts in the game, I mean, really hurt against Washington. It may have been the difference between them winning and losing.
It absolutely was the difference between them winning and losing. That's why the Eagles lost. You know what I mean?
There you go. So Pax, let's touch on the Flyers a little bit. You got a couple of candidates. I guess you got the 24 hours after the Stanley Cup. You got where you can buy out contracts and stuff like that, starting right then. So they mentioned 2 names that may be a buyout for the Flyers. They mentioned Myers and Braun, that maybe they would want to find a way to buy out their contracts. I guess that again happens 24 hours after the Stanley Cup is over, where they start making moves like that. What do you think about Braun? What do you think about Myers?
So Myers regressed last season. He was actually looking like he was coming. It was an up and coming guy, and then he regressed a lot last season. Braun is a little bit older. He's been doing his thing. I mean, I guess as far as defensemen goes, that there is a lot of talent that are youth, that are really young in the farm system. And for the Flyers. So I kind of think that that's the reason why they're considering those buyouts, truth be told, is that they are trying whatever they can to make sure that Voracek also disappears from this roster. I know that they've already been talking to the Kraken about it, and that they're trying to do everything that they possibly can to get rid of that portion of the contract. And then I know Giroux is on his last year. Obviously, he's got a no trade clause, so that there's not something that they can do with him whatsoever. But this is the last year of his contract, and then that $8.5 million comes off. There was a lot of regression across the board from the Flyers in general. And my expectation is that they're going to come up with a lot of youth in this next season, and they're probably trying to get rid of what they feel is dead weight. And the way Myers played last year, he would qualify. I thought Braun was better than Myers. I thought Braun was probably one of our better defensemen, but that's not saying much. Our defensemen, our defensive core sucked last year, to put it nicely. That there was too many mistakes, too many problems. They were playing way too high in the slot, and they were allowing people to get underneath them and such. And they were just leaving the goalie out to dry so much that was the reason why they finished out of the playoffs, and that's ultimately that was their demise. So switching this up and getting a younger look, I'm almost excited for, because I'm tired of seeing the same old out there.
Does AV make it past next year as the head coach if they're playing so during the season? Could there be a move made during the season to replace him as coach?
I have a feeling that there's going to be a very short hook, especially if they change this up to a young core. If this is a young team and they come out of the gate and they aren't 500 by the 20th game, you're going to see him fired then. That's just my opinion. I think that they're going to be really quick with the hook on him, because they do not want to instill a culture of these guys being okay with losing. And especially when you have a young team, you want to, if you're losing, it's one thing. As long as you are doing everything that you can to win. I mean, when you think about the Canadians a couple of years ago, where they had a really, really young team, they were scrappy, they were doing their things, but they just weren't winning games. They were losing games 3-2, 4-3, 2-1, and it was a consistent thing that they were doing. Then, of course, they made it to the playoffs. They brought the Flyers to 6 games, last year, and now they're in the finals. I mean, they're definitely overmatched against Tampa Bay right now, but I knew Tampa Bay was going to repeat. I knew that the Cup was going to go through Tampa Bay again this year. And I mentioned it in the very beginning of the season. I thought that was going to be who the Flyers' biggest competition was. However, the Flyers' biggest competition was themselves. They lost these games. They didn't really play well at all this year. So, but that's what it is. I feel that they are going to have a very quick hook on him.
It's funny, Mac, for our debate show, maybe that'll be a good question for the following week. Which Philly coaches has the warmest seat, the hottest seat? Because they all seem to have it. Girardi, in baseball, Doc Rivers in basketball, AV in hockey. Sirianni's new, so he's not on the hot seat yet.
So Pax, to finish it out, a little bit about the 76ers. Of course, the rumors are still around Simmons. I'm not even going to talk about that. Let's talk.
But you don't want to talk about his date at Wimbledon?
No.
But that's what everybody else is talking about. That he was smooching on some girl over there, some English girl. Obviously, she was a pretty girl. So
I don't care about all that nonsense.
Pax is giving me.
He can't shoot his shot. He can't shoot his shot on the court, but he could definitely shoot his shot out in real life.
So in the Eastern Conference, Pax. It looks like they're all improving, right? The Eastern Conference looked like it got a little stronger this year, right? You got Pacers hired Carlisle. Pacers did okay this year. The Hawks are definitely better than they were. You got the Knicks that were a little bit better. Pistons, Bulls, Miami, they all got cap room this year. So the 76ers are either going to have to improve Simmons, get rid of a couple people, pick up a couple people. What do you think they're going to do? I mean, we showed the number one ranking really didn't hold this year for the 76ers. Of course, injuries and all that stuff played a part in it. But what do you think the 76ers got to do to remain maybe in the top 3 teams over there?
That's a tough question. I mean, they're talking about revamping a little bit. Obviously, Simmons is the big chip that's on the table right there. The rule changes are going to be very interesting. Obviously, Trae Young's game is going to be very affected by the rule changes that they enforce next year. With the no longer it's going to be considered offensive fouls if you shoot awkward or if you bang into a defender. That's Harden's game. That's Trae Young's game. That's actually a good amount of people's games that they have used to be able to get to the foul line and such like that, where it's just, and now they're going to be considered offensive fouls. So I kind of expect that a lot of the play that has been going on is going to have to revamp some, that you like being a pure shooter is going to come back into play here. And my expectation is that when that occurs, you're going to see some of these teams come back to earth. Like I said, I think Atlanta willed themselves to win, and Trae Young took advantage of every bit of that. That whole Atlanta team took advantage of every bit of that rule, and that's great for them. You know what I mean? Like I said, it brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals, and congratulations to them for being able to do that. I wish my Sixers would have jumped on that. You know what I mean? But they didn't. So as moving forward, I fully expect that they're going to have some roster changes. Like I said, I believe that there is going to be some way that Simmons winds up in LA. It's going to happen. I think he's going to play with LeBron.
I don't think so. I think he's staying in Philly, and they're trying to make it work. Look, he's could have played in the Olympics, but Simmons is staying behind to work on his game.
Yeah, you saw how well he's working on his game, right? He's working on his game at Wimbledon.
That doesn't mean he's not working out. He's entitled to some days off. And besides, it's a great tennis tournament with Djokovic and Federer. Wouldn't that make, advancing to the quarterfinals? I got that.
I was at Wimbledon. I was at Wimbledon when it was John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors and stuff back in the day. So that was when Wimbledon was Wimbledon.
You should have Pags on talking about tennis. I'm even interested in this stuff. But back to the Sixers. I think the guy who slipped under the radar, gotten off the hook, the scrutiny should be on him, is Tobias Harris. They badly needed him to step up and play like a star during the playoffs. The Sixers might be playing against the Phoenix Suns right now, had Tobias Harris truly stepped up. But it didn't happen. So, no one mentions him. Ben Simmons has been made the total scapegoat. And I think it's unfair. Some of the blame should fall on Simmons, I agree, but not to the extent that it has.
So I disagree with that. Tobias Harris definitely was outplayed by Collins in this series. So I can't argue that whatsoever. However, he really only had one ridiculously bad game. Everything else was somewhat serviceable. He was scoring 18 to 20 points in the games and such like that. He had that one bad game. However, like I said, and he was outplayed by Collins most of the series. So I can't argue that.
Serviceable doesn't get a team to the finals. You expect more from Tobias Harris. That's my point.
He gets about 10% of that blame. Like I said, 10% of that blame. I give 40% of the blame to Simmons. You know what I mean? I give 40% of the blame to the coach, Doc Rivers. I think that he had a lot to do with the way that they lost these games. And there were a number of things that he could have done that would have changed the outcomes that he did not do. And it just shows how bad of a coach he is when it comes to the playoffs. And that's the reason why he's lost the most amount of game sevens, that he's had the most amount of series losses after being up 3-1. It shows his record really well that he has not been able to be a clutch coach. It's like there's times when you are a good coach, and during the regular season he's a great coach. He's able to motivate his guys to do the things that they're supposed to do. However, when it comes for a wartime consigliere, he's not that guy. He's just not that guy, and it proves it over and over again that he won in Boston in spite of his coaching, mostly because of the talent that he had around him. He had opportunities opportunities to be able to make changes so that they would be able to win in any one of the games that they were ahead against Atlanta, and he did not make those changes. In fact, he was too bullheaded and too stubborn to make the changes, and because of that, they wound up losing the series. So a lot of blame goes to him. You know what I mean? And I say, like I say, I give 40% of the blame. I give him just as much blame as I do Simmons. And then I give 10% to Tobias Harris, and then I give 10% to really the rest of the team. You know, there were a lot of things.
I can't disagree with what you're saying about Doc Rivers. The record's the record. I think he could have done a couple defensive changes during the game to maybe slow him down. I can't disagree with that, Pags. Pags, I got to let you go. I want to thank you for coming on again, as you always do every Wednesday. It's great having you on. Great guest. Know a lot about Phillies and a lot about sports in general. Guys, check out the Philly Sports Guy when you get a chance. I'm not going to go into any other details except he's on every platform there is. So go search him out.
When I'm not in jail.
Right, exactly. He's not in jail.
Those Cowboys fans, they love to banter back and forth, but the moment you start bantering back, they start crying. They're saying, he's bullying me. He's bullying me. I got a bully when a guy said, I'm like, what, you can't banter back and forth? Literally, that's how I started the conversation. And he reported me for bullying because Cowboys fans are turds. That's what they are. They're cockroach turds.
Oh, man. Anyway, Pags, thanks for coming on. We'll see you next week, and I'll be in touch with you off air. You have a great day, my friend.
Have a great week, guys. Thank you.
All right, buddy. So there he is, the Philly Sports Guy.
I have him say that to Jim Jeffcoat one time. About Cowboy fans and get a response.
Maybe we'll bring him down to
Philly fans, I'll tell you, their reputation is unlike any other. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's put it this way. They both are big rivals, and they both go at it all the time. That's for sure. So, folks, we're going to go ahead and take our official break for today. We're scheduled to have on, let me see if I get this right, from Binging Baseball. He's got a great baseball site over there. Brett Kell is his name. In fact, he's just popped in. So we're going to take our quick break. We have Brett Kell coming in right after the break, folks. I can't wait to get him on. His site is unbelievable. It's called Binging Baseball, and we'll get right to him after these breaks. So we'll be right back. Let me see if I can find my thing here. I can never find my thing, Jack. There it is. There's my thing. Okay, guys, we'll be back in a couple minutes with Brett Kell of Binging Baseball, and hopefully he can join us a few times during the year here, and we'll go over a lot of different baseball with him. So we'll be right back after these messages, folks.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too. Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Infoline. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's gonna be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he gonna know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with the legendary boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch, who joins us every day as your co-host also. We've been doing this for a while, Jack, and we always seem to get some of the best guests on our show. I mean, we got ex-Super Bowl champions, we got boxers, light heavyweights, and I'm excited about bringing on our next guest. He's got a site called Binging Baseball, and the site not only contains major league stuff, but it also covers college. It covers independent leagues. I mean, he's all over it. So I'm really interested to get him on and doing the baseball review with our next guest here. And let me bring up his banner here so everybody can see who we're talking to here. It's about Brett Kell and Binging Baseball. That's the site he's on. So let's bring up Brett and see how he's doing.
Morning.
How you doing, Brett? Good to see you.
Good morning, Brett.
Before we get down to our baseball review of the Major League Baseball, why don't you tell the folks that are viewing and listening right now about your site at Binging Baseball, Brett?
Well, it's just something I started about the pandemic time frame. I was out of town up at the Mayo Clinic with my daughters and had a lot of free time, and I was like, I wanted to get back into getting baseball out there for the people, just sharing the information, helping out the teams. The more the teams had help by knowing people knowing that they were out there. When we got back to normal, people would get back out to going to the games and supporting the teams, and because we're lucky we didn't lose a lot of the teams that we. We're still growing as a sport in baseball, as you said, like independent and collegiate wise, it's still growing and becoming a bigger sport out there.
Right, and when I saw your site, like I said, I was surprised on all the different leagues you cover. There's a wood. Am I saying it right? A wood bat league, or am I saying it? I might even have that wrong. Go ahead.
It's the collegiate wood bat league. It's a summer league for all the college players. I started before I actually started. I'm actually the assistant GM of the Topeka Golden Giants, and we have out of the 35 guys on the roster, 18 are from Kansas, 17 are out of Kansas, and then we have local college kids. And I played college baseball myself. We have a kid from that college on the roster, and so it's just it's a little bit more laid back than a regular season for the college kids. It's more kind of a little fun, get some experience. It's kind of like how AAU is out there for the basketball players.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we got Brett on, and we're gonna do what we do every Wednesday right now, and that's our review and recap of Major League Baseball. Stretch her out in New York. I love that song, Jack. I love that song, brother. I really do. So, folks, we're going to start off in the American League East. The Boston Red Sox right now are 54-33, 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Rays are in second at 49-36, followed by the Blue Jays, Yanks, Orioles, who are now changing their name from the Orioles to some other bird. They're not sure what it's going to be yet. Chicago right now is in first place in the Central at 50-36. Cleveland's at 42-40, followed by Detroit, KC, and Minnesota. The West, Houston has stretched out a lead over the A's right now. The A's right now are 49-38, 4.5 back. Houston's at 53-33, and they're followed by Seattle, Angels, and Texas. Let me go to you first, Brett. In the beginning of the season, I told everybody, and they kind of laughed at me, to kind of watch out for the Boston Red Sox this year. They got Cora as their manager. He's been to a couple World Series, so he knows what he's doing as far as team chemistry and team makeup goes. And not only are they playing good ball right now, they got an ace coming back. So what are your thoughts on the Red Sox this year?
It's a good mix of old and young. I mean, JD doesn't really play the outfield anymore, but like the other night, he made a great play out in left field and threw a guy out at home. And so they have a good mix of young and old, and kind of moving guys around as needed when needed. So it's a good team right now.
We don't know what Chris Sale is really going to give to Red Sox when he comes back. Obviously, an elite pitcher, but he hasn't been on the mound for a while. So that's a next factor, but it can only help the Red Sox, of course.
Well, after last year, you just don't know what any pitcher is coming back, what they're going to be able to do, because it's been a weird year with the sticky substance aspect of things, and like Trevor Bauer showed a video of just rosin and water, or rosin and sweat, that it became a sticky substance, and those are two allowed things to use on a ball: sweat and rosin.
Right, and that's why they gave the rosin to the players so long ago, because of course the laces at the time, they're a little bit bigger, they're a little bit tighter now on them balls. It's a little harder to grip. So I can understand a little bit why they're doing that. What are your thoughts on Houston? I mean, the A's jumped out. The A's always seem to have a good team, not great, but a good team. But it looks like the Astros are starting to make a move.
And another team that's won a championship, and they have a lot of veteran players. Altuve seems like he's maybe getting things together, and then you got Greinke that's just always a wild card. Pitching and just as a person, he's a wild card. So he threw a pitch in the other day that just kind of stepped off the mound and just winged it in there, and the batter's like, okay, what just happened here? So
yes.
I'll tell you, Zach Greinke, I think he's been 18 years in the league, and he's pitching really, really well. And just the longevity factor alone, I mean, is he taking his steps towards being a Hall of Famer? I mean, has he arrived to that point now? Because he's really been phenomenal.
I believe so, because I used to watch him in Kansas City. And that Cy Young year, it was amazing to go watch him pitch, and you'd actually I felt like I got lost in the game for that 2.5, 3 hours when he was on the mound. It's just amazing to watch him pitch that year, and it's just I think he may not have that star powered name that he used to have, but he still just puts up the numbers every year.
Very good. Very good. So on the NL East, the Mets are still in first at 44-37, followed by the Phillies at 41-42, then Washington, Atlanta, and the Marlins. In the Central, Milwaukee Brewers at 8-2 in the last 10. They're playing a lot of small ball, which I love watching the team, doing the squeeze play and stealing bases like they used to. The Reds in second at 44-41, followed by St. Louis, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. And in the West, the Giants, even though they're 4-6 in the last 10 games, hold on to first at 53-32, half a game over the Dodgers. Then, of course, San Diego, Colorado, and Arizona. The Giants, Brett, are they a big surprise to you this year?
I mean, that whole division is kind of it's kind of almost like the NBA, where the West is kind of becoming a place that people want to play, and so you're getting a lot more talent out there, and it's going to be bunched up for the whole season, I think, and you're probably going to get your come down to the end of the season where they're all together there, and which makes exciting baseball. And I love when a division race isn't decided at the end of August, but it's with a week to go, and you're still trying to figure out who's going to win it. And you never know. You might get like an 07 Rockies situation where some team just comes out of nowhere and just wins. What I think they won like 21 out of 23 games to make the playoffs or something like that. And so,
well, I think the motivation is to avoid the one-game playoff, because all three, the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, they're going to make the playoffs, okay, because they're 3 wild card slots. But the danger's in the one-game playoff, because, of course, anything could happen over the course of one game.
Exactly. I mean, one hot inning, and then all of a sudden the game's done.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. In the locals, Jack and Brett, and this is where we talk about the teams from the Northeast. The Philadelphia with 15 runs beat Chicago 15-10. Harper, McCutchen both driving 4. The Angels beat the Red Sox 5-3. Martinez does drive in 2 in a loss. And the Yanks beat Seattle 12-1. Stanton, Voit, and Odor all drive in 3. Talon finally gets a win, going 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, and 9 strikeouts. So your thoughts on the Yankees, Brett? I mean, I've had a complaint. I'm a big Yankee. I've been a Yankee fan all my life. My dad's from New York and such. It seems to me that their philosophy has been over the past, 5-6 years, besides getting Cole, they kind of don't worry about their starting pitching as much as they used to. They try to go reliever heavy. And what ends up happening every year when they start playing the good teams is, of course, they beat the starter out. They get up by 4 runs, and then a good bullpen is not that good anymore. It really doesn't matter. They're already 4 runs down, and they're used up by the time the playoffs come around because they're always being used. Do you have that same thought process about the Yankees' strategy, that when they won, they had some really good starting pitching? Right now, they're with Cole, okay, he's good, but after that, it kind of falls off a little bit.
Well, when Cashman first got there, his philosophy was kind of a mix of homegrown and going out and spending the money. And I don't really have seen too much of that homegrown talent like they used to have. And I understand it's hard to find a Jeter just sitting around every year to bring up a guy like that. But they slide in their normal guys, and the Red Sox kind of did the same thing with their championship years, where they'd bring in their own guys and then fill around with free agency. And one thing I've been reading a lot is people are kind of wanting to blow up the team and kind of rebuild and try to get rid of some of the people, maybe like a Stanton or a Judge, and see what they can get in return on those minor leaguers and have them under control for that 6+ years, and see what can happen if they do that. Which I don't remember the last time the Yankees actually blew up a team and said, okay, let's restart. And it's probably prior to Cashman that happened.
That's not going to happen. The Yankees are definitely not going into rebuilding mode. There's absolutely no way. I mean, they're going to try to tighten up in certain areas. Something revealing happened in last night's game. The Yankees win 12-1. They have Chapman pitch the 9th inning. He pitched 2 days ago. So they weren't throwing him in for 1 inning just to get some work. The whole idea behind Aaron Boone's thinking, let him pitch 1 good inning, no pressure. We have an 11-run lead. Let's straighten him out so he could be his old self. He gives up a hit and walks 2 batters. Okay, he doesn't give up a run. He strikes out three of the batters for the outs. But the idea that 2 walks and a hit in a mop-up inning, so if anything, his confidence might be further eroded, not just Chapman's in himself, but Boone's and Chapman's. Do you see him staying as the closer? I mean, is he on a short leash now, Chapman? Because look what the Yankees did a couple of days ago. They pitched Green 3 innings. 3 innings in relief. That was astounding to me for him to get the save.
I mean, every closer has their little hiccups now and then. And Rivera wasn't always, perfect. And you look at the 04 ALCS, and there's always going to go through their little bumps in the road here and there. And it's good to get like you said, Boone, put him in for some mop-up duty. Just get in there and try to work on stuff in a game situation. And even then, you can have your hiccup and they give up 5 runs right then. And so
Rivera pitched well in the 04 series, just he gave up the tying run in the 9th. So that obviously is a big hiccup in game 4 that opened the door for the Red Sox comeback. But with Chapman, it seems now the focus is on him. And what are the Yankees to do? Do you stick with him? Do you have any choice but basically to stick with him? Or do you just make him a middle reliever and make Chad Green your closer? That's the question right now.
Well, when you throw that hard, and any little thing in your mechanics can kind of get it messed up, and then and you definitely got to have some movement on your ball. Because no matter how hard you throw, if you throw it right down the middle straight, and guys at that level are going to crush it. So, it's one of those things is keep on working at it. And sometimes it is best to make a little change. Like you said, put them in middle relief and then see what else you have for the future, possibly also in a closer situation. It's like the Royals had that 3-headed monster of Herrera, Holland, and Davis. You just, sometimes you just got to mix things up a little bit. And when the Royals won theirs, they kind of sometimes had to mix it up. Sometimes just give it a little bit of a change.
Yeah, listen, Buck said he still throws 99 miles an hour, but if he's not accurate, he can throw it 200 miles an hour. It really don't matter. So, listen, like I said, I just think this ain't their year. I really do. I think this is going to be a year where they got to kind of reassess things. Anything can happen in baseball, guys. In fact, I got a trivia question. I love doing this with Jack. I got you on, and it's a baseball trivia question. So I wanna see if Jack and you know this. I think you both will know this, but I got to throw it in there anyway, and let's see if we can stump Jack and maybe even stump Brett. Let's see what happens there. So, guys, what is now? We're getting halfway into the season now, right? We're getting close to the All-Star break, the trade deadline. But what is the biggest comeback by a team in the history of baseball now? What is the biggest comeback to come back and win the division?
I'm thinking, guys, 2 comebacks come to mind. And I have a feeling neither of them is going to be the answer, but they're going to both be close. Of course, 1951, the New York Giants coming back, from 14 games down, behind the Dodgers, and then going 37-7 the rest of the season to force a 3-game playoff in which, of course, they won the 3rd game on Bobby Thompson's home. Or the 1978 New York Yankees, I think 14.5 games behind the Boston Red Sox. And, of course, they forced a tie at the end and they won the 1-game playoff. So it's one of those 2 games. Which one was a little bit later in the season? I don't know. It's either way. It's one of those 2. If I have to give an answer,
One answer.
I'll go with the 78 Yankees, but it may have been the 51 team. It may have been neither team.
What do you think? What do you think, Brett? What
Maybe the 07 Padres?
Well, the answer is Jack got it right. The 1978 Yankees coming back 14 and a half games back from in mid-July. So that's the reason why it beat the other one you mentioned. I think it was a 51 season, Jack. It was a little later, and the Padres were right in there, and I think they were number 3, Brett. So you're right in the ballpark.
Well, the St. Louis Blues showed us that anything's possible because when they won the Stanley Cup that one year, they were the worst team in all of hockey.
That's true. That is true.
And they came back and won it all. So,
that is true. So Brett, let me get your thoughts. We got a trade deadline coming up. There's teams that are out there that are right now in first place. I mean, that doesn't mean they won't trade. And of course, you got the teams that are very disappointing that may be selling off. I can think of the Twins, maybe the Rangers, who have some really good talent that might want to start all over again. And, of course, you got teams that are just, on the cusp of being in there. I mean, you could talk about the Rays. You could talk about maybe even the Phillies or teams that are close enough that they can catch the other teams. What are your thoughts first, Brett, and then Jack? What do you think about the teams near the top? Do you think that the Giants, the Padres, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, teams like that will be in the market to pick up just a couple more pieces?
Well, it's one of those things. If you always got to look at what's best for the chemistry, and then I always being out of the Kansas City area every year. It seemed like for years is like, okay, who's going where at the trade deadline? And for the last couple of years, I know a lot of teams have been interested in Whit Merrifield, and it's one of those things of he finally got a chance. He's a guy a lot like Lou Merlone, but got a chance later, but. Wasn't as long in the tooth as Merlone was when he got his shot, but there's guys that are always, teams are always looking to add this or that throughout the whole entire season. But to me, is the biggest thing is looking at chemistry and what's your needs, and a guy like Whit Merrifield that can play multiple positions. I always feel that's the best to find when you're picking up someone is are you replacing someone that can go somewhere else, and then are you picking someone up like a Ben Zobrist or someone like that, where when he was playing that can go and play multiple positions. So if you do have someone go down, that you have that multi-use player that can kind of go anywhere you need them to go.
Great point. How about you, Jack? What do you think?
I think the contracts dictate that. Some guys you can't give away. Giancarlo Stanton has, I think, 6 years left on his contract after this year. If a team was willing to take the whole contract off the Yankees' hands, I think the Yankees part with him at the end of this season, regardless of how the year winds up. I don't think anyone would take the contract off the Yankees' hands. And if the Yankees still have to pay a good chunk of it, they'll figure they may as well hold on to them. I never liked the term sellers because you have to look towards the following year. If a team's having an off year, there's always next year. Can the guy help you next year? So you ride it out with him 2-3 more months and let him finish the season. And some of those teams that weren't expected to contend, you'd never expect them to be a buyer. But their economic situation dictates that. I mean, what kind of owner do they have? Do they have the type of owner who wants to aggressively win, who doesn't mind spending the money? Some teams have those type of owners. Other teams don't.
Very true. Very true. We've got a question from Buck Flair for you. Do you think the Red Sox are really going to win that division? You take a shot at that first, Brett. Do you think they're going to win that division?
I'm pretty sure they are. I mean, the Rays are always, always there in the wings right now, and they're an interesting team. I just look at what Brett Phillips and this mop-up duty as a position player pitching the other day. He just kind of made it fun for the guys and had a little laugh doing it, and that's always good when you have that chemistry that you can always be there and having fun kind of breeds the winning a little bit on that situation. And so, but I'm pretty sure the Red Sox are going to hold it down and win the division.
How about you, Jack? I know you've been an ace there.
I'm not qualified to say. I thought the Red Sox would be out of it by now. I'm the least qualified person. Listen, you just have to. The answer would have to be yes if I'm forced to answer, because you just look at the standings. I mean, the Rays losing Morton and Snell, they're not quite the same team. You know, when you lose, two starting pitchers like that, you're never quite the same. And you look at the Blue Jays and the Yankees, 9 and 9.5 games out. That's a heck of a mountain to climb. It doesn't mean they can't make that ground up. But how can you say with any type of confidence that either the Blue Jays or the Yankees are going to wage a comeback and overtake the Red Sox? You absolutely can't. So, I just feel the Red Sox are playing with a certain confidence. I mean, they have some, established players on the team, like you mentioned, really good manager, good organization behind them. I wouldn't be shocked. We guys were talking a moment ago about who's going to be a buyer. I wouldn't be shocked if the Red Sox do something big. If an elite player is available, that they pick up his contract for now, make a serious move. So my answer would have to be yes at this point.
And Jack, I agree with you. I think there's a few teams. If there is a big pitcher ready to sign or ready to move, there are a few teams. I think the Red Sox are one that would make them a bona fide World Series contender, and I think even the Mets may make a couple moves. They're in first right now. But that division is not the greatest. And if they make a couple of moves and maybe get a pitcher or another position player, maybe a position player that can help out their defense and with a little bit of hitting, I see the Mets making that move.
Guys, sometimes the best moves are the ones you don't make a stay status quo. Imagine, guys, if the Mets re-signed Zach Wheeler. They didn't think he was worth all that money. And I'm not saying they were wrong. And they held on to Steven Matz, who's pitched well for Toronto. Imagine they added those two onto their staff now, and they had them and they held on to them. I mean, where would they be? They're in first place, but they would really be solidified, and their chances of winning the World Series obviously would be increased.
Brett, when we got the All-Star game coming up, and at one time, the All-Star game was a serious matter. I mean, they were trying to win the game. There were players that played 3, 4, 5, 6 innings, maybe even complete games at one time. I mean, they played physically, they played mentally, emotionally. They cared about who won. Today, it's not like that. It's a lot of All-Star games aren't anymore, right? They go out there, they have their little competitions, they play a little ball, they throw 10 pitchers in there, and a lot is just fan voted in. It used to be, it's always been kind of that way anyway. But there was a little bit more pride in being in certain divisions. Do you think it's even relevant anymore, the All-Star game? I mean, should they even keep score anymore, honestly?
Well, not really. I've been saying for years, I wish they would take stats and then you vote off the stats. So then you can bring up a guy that's earned it through what he's done through the first half of the year. There's so many players that, I respect Derek Jeter completely, but there's years maybe he shouldn't have been in there. David Ortiz, I think his last year he was in. I know it was more of the swan song kind of last year. Here you go, but it's one of those things of I wish they'd actually take the stats, but up to a certain point, and then make a certain category, and then you're eligible for the All-Star game, and then voting from there, because then you get some small market teams that I think it'd help the small market teams, especially with the marketing of their players that you don't really hear of. And, just like I was hearing yesterday of, the West Coast teams, some of the East Coast don't know because the West Coast games are so late sometimes. I remember living in Rhode Island and watching the Red Sox A's, and it'd be like 3 a.m. the game's still going on. And so it's just one of those things, if you could really market some of your young talent and some of your small market teams by having guys in there that have earned it. There's several years Royals players or Twins players or A's players should have been in the All-Star game, but because this superstar was who he was, and then now also just teams are just ballot stuffing. I've gone to professional games where they're like, oh, fill out 100 ballots, get a free T-shirt, and so there's ballot stuff.
Brett, you make some excellent points there. My feeling's always been, and what do you think of this, that the All-Star Game selections shouldn't be done over the course of a short season, not just the season alone. It should be done from the end of June one year to the end of June the following year. You take a whole year into account, not just a couple of months in the beginning, because so often we see a player get off to a great start for a couple of months. He gets he's put on the All-Star team, and he's not truly an All-Star. He hasn't done it over the course of a full season.
Well, yeah, and that's a really good point. And then you kind of rookies, you kind of do a little different with the rookies. But I remember watching on TV on reruns the old home run derby. Just like it was said earlier about the guys played most of the game or whatever. Nowadays it's like you said, like guys will go in, play, and then they're out of the stadium before the game's even over on some of the starters. I think it'd be a lot more interesting if you did some more things to get the fans into it. I understand a lot of fans just want to see, the superstars versus the superstars, and kind of like the World Baseball Classic. And when that first came around, I told my wife, I'm going. I don't care if I come back to divorce papers, but I'm going to go see the first World Baseball Classic.
Yeah. Chapman is on. Guys, Chapman is on the All-Star team.
Yeah.
He's losing his closing job with the Yankees, and he's on the All-Star team. I mean, you explain it to me.
Well,
it's fan voting, and so they're, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Phillies. They have their fan bases,
Big market teams, definitely. Buck brings up an interesting point. I've heard this before. Get rid of the All-Star game. Just have the two best teams of each league, that have the best records, play each other like a break, like the half-season break, and have a real game and count it. I've heard that said before. I don't know if it's a bad or good idea.
You just never know. They have interleague now, so that's kind of a thing that's already been done. If we didn't have interleague, that'd be like a little fun thing to do, I think.
Right.
But there's definitely different ways you can mix it up, and you could even do like an East versus West, or you can find other ways to mix it up. But it's just, I think if they made the players stay and just had a little bit more interaction, even you might even be able to do it where you have a home run derby throughout the game or something like that, because you have so many pitching changes that you could just sit there and kind of have the pitchers warm up when that round of the home run derby starts or something. There's different ways. At least I think it's still a game where you get certain games like the NBA All-Star game. It's just let's see who can get the 200 first kind of mentality. Right. But I think it's more of still a true game in itself being played. You don't have as much fun as when Kruk threw his helmet on backwards and versus Randy Johnson. When he got a little chin music from Randy Johnson.
Right.
I'm glad it's back to just being a fun game and not meaning anything, because you'll get a little bit more fun and doing little things sometimes, like the A-Rod and Cal Ripken situation where he shoved Ripken over to short instead of and he went over to third. So where it doesn't mean anything, you'll get a little bit some of those more moments like that.
And I agree with the one thing you said there. They definitely should change the rules and get the best players at their position in there, and then maybe a top three, and then vote for them if the fans want to have a vote. I think that's a great idea, bro.
Let the players rest and don't even have a game. I mean, it's just a glorified exhibition, and I'm not sure what the TV ratings are, but it used to be must-see watching years ago when the game meant something. Now, I mean, I might have the TV on, but I'm not paying attention to the game that carefully.
I agree. I think all All-Star games and all pro games have become that way. And it's a shame, because at one time being an All-Star really meant something. And if you're a 12-time All-Star because, you're a New York Yankee or a Philly or a Boston player, and you really don't deserve it, to me, that All-Star, 12-time All-Star really doesn't mean that much anymore like it used to in the old days.
Well, it's in the NFL to be a Pro Bowler. You had to be a Pro Bowler to even be Hall of Fame eligible.
I agree.
And it's like it's kind of a weird rule. And that speaking of weird rules, is I wish they'd make a change for Otani and let him pitch and hit.
Right.
And,
I agree.
He's been doing both all season, so why not? At least, especially being an exhibition.
They said, Brett, they're going to try and do that this year. They're going to try and let him pitch, hit, and play a position in the All-Star game. That's the latest I heard on it, and that was like this morning. So I don't know if it's been updated or not, but that's the last thing I heard on it. So, we'll
guys, and isn't the most worthy players supposed to be playing? Jacob deGrom has clearly been the best pitcher in baseball, but he's not going to be pitching in the All-Star game because he's going to be pitching for the Mets this Sunday, a couple of days before the All-Star game. So he feels it's best he not be used. I mean, so the whole idea of the All-Star game is to showcase the best, yet Jacob deGrom's not going to be pitching.
And he's been wiped out. And I was listening to games when he was down in pitching in Low A down in Florida. And it was just unfair to have him down at that level pitching. Because I was actually chatting with the broadcasters, and it's like, okay, they need to let him throw with his weak hand because he was just, lighting those kids up down to that level. So,
Brett, everybody should have bunted. That would have been me. I mean, the whole team just bunt when you get up there and close your eyes, and that's about it.
I think he had no hits through like 4 or 5 in one of those starts down there, and it's like it's fun for those kids to get down there and experience that, and see that, and a good way to judge your talent at that level also. But I was listening to those games. I was just commenting to the commenter. I was like, there's gonna be something he's got to do different to make it more fair for those young guys.
Yeah, definitely. So, Brett, we got to let you go. We got some more show to do. Thank you for coming in. I hope you can do this on a regular with us. We enjoyed having you. Your knowledge is unbelievable. And you have a great day, and I'll definitely be in touch with you off air, my friend.
Okay. And right now, still working on the website, but I have the Facebook to Twitter, Binging Baseball on Facebook, Binging Ball on Twitter. And it's just right now I'm just putting out a lot of information about all the different teams, leagues. Like the beginning of the season, I started off with all the changes in minor league baseball and how all the structure changed there and the teams that left. But it's just fun. I keep on buying gear. The more teams I find, the more gear I buy. And the fun names are out there. There's the Appalachian Moonshiners. The Appy League just changed all their names. So there's so many fun names out there.
Very cool. So, Brett, well, I'll be talking to you off air. Like I said, I hope you can come in and we could do this every week and just talk some baseball. So you have a great day. I'll be in touch. And again, people, go check out Binging Baseball. Facebook, search it. It's out there, and all this other stuff that comes with it. Thanks again, Brett.
Thank you.
Take care. So there you go, folks. Brett Kell. Told you Jackie knew his stuff, right? I told you the man knows baseball.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot to ask him on future shows because I'm fascinated by things like the independent league. What are the chances of players getting to the big league? What are the chances for advancement in the different minor league levels? Because I have a lot that I want to learn about that.
Well, Northeast Streaming Sports will be investigating that very thoroughly. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. We got a little bit more to go over with you. We got This Day in Sports. We got all kinds of stuff we still can talk about. So please stay with us. Come back right after these breaks. And again, if I can find these darn banners here, I'll tell you, Jack, one of these days I either need glasses or I need to organize these better. I'm not sure, but I'll keep working on it as we go along. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Kenneth,
Bye-bye.
remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. First day back on our busy week coming up, as we're going to have all kinds of exciting guests coming up for you this week, folks. Stick around all week, and you'll be seeing some of the best guests in sports, covering a lot of different information from baseball, basketball, hockey, boxing, and, of course, our football show on Sunday. Not yet. It's still this week in sports, but it will be turning to our football show on Sunday, where we have two-time Super Bowl champion, Dallas Cowboy legend Jim Jeffcoat joins us, and Robert Butler from SportsScope, two of my favorite guests, and I can't wait to get Jim on there full time. So, Jack, we had two real good guests on today. We had the Philly sports guy, and you two guys kind of went at it a little bit. I seen him get a little red in the face. You have that effect on some people, which is great.
Well, no, he's very frustrated because the Philly teams have kind of underperformed. Listen, the Sixers were considered a serious contender for the NBA title, and to flame out the way they did against the Atlanta Hawks, they didn't even make it to the finals of the Eastern Conference. And, and even especially with the Nets out of the picture, okay? The door was open for the Sixers to get to the finals, and they didn't get it done, and they can't blame injuries on not getting it done. Bottom line, they just weren't good enough. They should have been good enough. They didn't play well enough. And the Flyers, of course, are fading. They were like a big disappointment. The Phillies, the potential's there, but they really haven't played that well. They've hovered around 500. And the Eagles are picked by most people to finish last. So Pags is a frustrated man, bottom line.
Yes,
he's a frustrated man. And he's got to take it out on me, Mac. But, I got thick skin, so it doesn't bother me personally. Let him vent a little bit, because it seems like he has a long sports year ahead of him.
Yes, I would agree with that, Jack. So we just had on Brett Kell, and I've never really met him personally or even talked to him. but his baseball site I saw over there, Binging Baseball, was completely thorough and covering everything. And just talking with him, you could tell the man knows a lot more about baseball than I do. I mean, even to the minor leagues, going and watching Jacob deGrom when he went down, and he's really into the independent league and the college leagues. I mean, this guy is into everything in baseball. And you can see he really loves the game, Jack.
Yeah, one of the things that's really fascinating is when you get an elite major league player and he's rehabbing and they send him down to play minor league ball for a couple of days. It's a very big thing for small towns because, I mean, they're used to seeing young players on the way up. Some of them become major leaguers, but they're not there yet, and their future's uncertain how far they're going to go. But when you get an established guy, like I remember in Trenton, when Derek Jeter went there to play a couple of games, I mean, that's a big thing for the people in the stands. It's a big thing for the players. These guys, very few who are ever going to make the major leagues, are Derek Jeter's teammate for a couple of games. They're Jacob deGrom's teammate for a game or two. It's a big deal to them. That might be the highlight of the career of some of these guys. Like, look, I played with Derek Jeter. I was on the same team for him for a couple of games. So they're all giddy. They're having their picture taken with him. Think of when Michael Jordan played baseball for the Birmingham Barons in Alabama. All those young guys, Michael Jordan's their teammate for the long haul.
Yeah.
You know, for like the season. And they're hanging out with them and they're sitting with them in the dugout. But after a while, you forget who you're with. You're where you're with Michael Jordan, but you're no longer thinking, I'm with Michael Jordan, the NBA star. You're thinking of him as being one of the guys. He's joking around with the other guys. But then when he leaves and he goes to play basketball, then he gets on the pedestal once again. And you say, wow, I knew Michael Jordan. I could hang out with him all the time. And now I can't get a minute with him. Okay, so.
And not only that, Jack, not only playing with him, but facing him. I mean, you know, think of Jacob deGrom, all the great batters he's faced in the MLB, and here you are, like you say, you may never get out of the minor leagues. That's as far as you're going. But you can tell your kids, hey, listen, I faced Jacob deGrom, and I fouled a couple balls off against him. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's stories you could tell.
If you get a base hit off him, wow, even if the rest of your career fizzles, you feel... You know, and when you're going against Jacob deGrom and he's in a rehab game minor leagues, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going against the very best here. It doesn't get better than that, and you're really in awe. I believe a lot of these minor leaguers, they face an elite major league pitcher, they're in awe. They're in awe. Like they're thinking, are they worthy? But they just want to survive. They don't want to strike out. They don't want to get embarrassed. If they pop up, they don't feel bad. If they hit a ground ball, They get thrown out at first. They don't feel bad. Just let me make contact. I don't want to go out weakly. Let me show that I can at least hold my own a little by getting the bat on the ball.
Right. I mean, great points. Great points. Brett, we can't wait for next time either. Thank you for coming out and saying that. We really enjoyed
Good
it.
stuff, Brett. I mean, there's a lot, I'm going to learn from Brett, going forward. And I'm looking, I'm anxiously can't wait for that.
Definitely. So, Jack, let's get into our segment I like doing with you. We try to do it at the end of the show, folks. Sometimes we run out of time and we can't get to it. But I love going over this day in sports history with Jack, because Jack knows a lot about the history of sports, as do I. But Jack knows some areas better than me, so it's really fun going over it with him. So, in 1912, Jack, we're going way back. He was called the greatest athlete in sports history, and he's still called the greatest athlete in sports history by a lot of people. Jim Thorpe wins the pentathlon, 5 events. His medals were stripped because he was playing professional baseball at the time to feed his family. But what an athlete he was, Jack, to win that competition in the Olympics and to play almost every sport there was maybe not been another athlete like Jim Thorpe ever.
I can't relate to Jim Thorpe. He did it all. I couldn't help but laugh, Mac. at least to myself, when you said he was stripped of his medals in 1912 because he did something professionally to feed his family. Mac, over 100 years later, the same thing's going on. It wasn't until the other day the NCAA is finally allowing guys, to make money, and idealistically, especially in 1912, there was a thing, you play for purity of sport. It's all about purity of sport. A guy could be broke. He could have no food on his table, and he does something so he could feed his family, and he gets stripped of his medals. But Jim Thorpe, one of the famous great athletes lost in time, because this was a guy who really did everything, from, every sport from Olympics on to all the so-called professional sports.
There you go. And there's the Twitter account for Binging Baseball. It's Binging Ball at Binging Ball. So there you go. Jack, not only did he play baseball, and I think he played lacrosse, he ran track, he won an Olympics. He's one of the founding fathers of the Professional Football League. And some people don't know that either. He was actually the first president of that league before it was called the NFL, and also was a player / coach / manager. So he's one of the ones with George Halas and a few others that started this league that we watch today and is so famous. So this man did everything, Jack.
Yeah, but guys, in all fairness to the listeners, football was pretty irrelevant in 1912. Let's be honest about
1920,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 1920s, it was pretty irrelevant. It started eventually getting crowds, and big-time football as we know it today, ushering in the modern age. Really, a lot of people think it took place at the 1958 NFL championship game at Yankee Stadium when the Colts beat the Giants. That was a nationally televised game. That's when football really, really took off. But it did exist for decades before then. It did have a history behind it. But around the time Jim Thorpe was playing, in around 1920, thereabouts. So I'm not sure what was the year, Mac, where they have it exactly with Jim Thorpe. In any event, football wasn't as big. The two big sports in the United States, actually three, you could say, but two especially in the early 1900s that were very big were boxing and baseball.
Agreed.
Boxing and baseball, very big, and horse racing to an extent.
Agreed.
Not as big, but as an extent. The other sports as we knew it today, the NBA. What was the NBA? No one heard of the NBA. It wasn't in existence. The NHL wasn't in existence the same way. Those sports kind of came later. That's why when you talk about which sports have the greatest tradition, only tradition, and we're talking about nothing else, in no particular order, it's baseball and boxing. We always talk about tradition in baseball, and we talk about tradition in boxing. The other sports, may have passed them as far as active viewership, but the tradition factor isn't quite as strong.
And speaking of history, in 1948, Jack, the Cleveland Indians stunned Major League Baseball by signing the 42-year-old Satchel Paige from the Negro League. He was supposedly one of the best pitchers in the Negro League, or the best. And he finally got a shot at 42 years old. It's a shame he didn't play in his prime in the MLB, but that's the way it was back then.
Satchel Paige had one of the great lines. Never look back behind you because someone else might be catching up. That was one of his lines. Satchel Paige was one of the great pitchers who was deprived, not being able to pitch in the prime of his career because African-American players weren't allowed to be in the big leagues. It's awful. Some of those guys from the Negro leagues, you kind of won the Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard. We talk about Jackie Robinson, who deserves all the accolades that he gets, but we sometimes forget the other guys. And sometimes we should also focus on the other guys as well. The guys who were deprived were really great, great players. Satchel Paige, obviously, amongst them.
And speaking of the Negro Leagues, both of these players started there, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays team up to beat the American League All-Star team in 1959 when the All-Star game meant something, Jack.
When it meant something, remember when Pete Rose ran into Ray Fosse? I didn't like that. Let me be honest. Fosse got injured, the Cleveland Indian catcher, where Pete Rose scored the winning run in the All-Star game. And Fosse was never quite the same again. I think it was his throwing shoulder, So I didn't like that at all, okay? But whatever. But the point is, they really played the game hard to win the All-Star game then. And now, in a similar scenario, if a guy's rounding third for the winning run, the catcher would allow him a little leeway, to get to the plate, and the runner wouldn't collide with the catcher. Same way, there's like a gentleman's agreement not to go in too hard, not to play it like you would a regular season game.
Right. I agree. That's all the All-Star games now, Jack. In 1980, Holmes defends his WBC title versus Scott LeDoux. Now, I don't know about Scott LeDoux from anybody, Jack. Was Scott LeDoux a good fighter?
Scott LeDoux was a good fighter, but not a serious heavyweight contender, okay? Solid fighter, not world-class by any means. He was from Minneapolis. Scott LeDoux fought a draw with a young Leon Spinks early in Spinks' career. I thought Spinks won the fight, but someone else may have had a different opinion of that. He fought a draw with Ken Norton later on when Norton was kind of slipping on the downside of his career. He was solid. He was good. He wasn't quite world class. When he fought Holmes in that fight, they stopped it in the 7th round, and LeDoux complained he wasn't really hurt, but he was getting so woefully outclassed because he wasn't in Holmes's league, not even in his league. Good, solid fighter. What I liked about Scott LeDoux is he got the most out of his ability. He maximized it. He left nothing on the table. We have things in boxing, underachievers and overachievers. I think LeDoux overachieved, so I mean it as a compliment. He got the most out of his talent, went as far as he could, fought for title. Holmes completely dominated that fight from start to finish before stopping LeDoux in the 7th round.
Is that one of the guys you would consider a gatekeeper? You would have to beat him to move on to be ranked, Jack?
At that time, I don't know. Guys weren't ducking guys quite as much. So LeDoux was better than just a little better than just a journeyman, a little better than a gatekeeper, something between a gatekeeper and a contender. And there's no name for someone in the middle of that, I mean, on merit alone, he could sometimes get up to number 9, number 10 in the ratings, and it would be valid, but not a serious, serious impact heavyweight title contender.
Excellent. Birthdays today, Jack. Again, Satchel Paige. Not only was he, at 42, was he brought in by Cleveland, but he was born in 1906. Ezzard Charles. My father always talked about Ezzard Charles. Born in 1921. He considered Ezzard Charles one of the best when he talked about him, Jack. Was he?
I'll tell you something. Lou Eskin, the late Lou Eskin, a man I respected a great deal, okay? Lou Eskin was a Muhammad Ali fanatic. He went a little overboard, I thought. But Lou Eskin was very opinionated. In his opinion, Ezzard Charles was the greatest pound-for-pound boxer he ever saw, okay? Ezzard Charles was a great fighter. The problem with Ezzard Charles, he fought a fighter named Sam Baruti, and Baruti died in the ring against Ezzard Charles. So, supposedly, he was never the same after that. As a light heavyweight, he beat Archie Moore 4 times.
Yeah,
he was
Archie
better than Archie Moore.
Right.
Better than Archie Moore. And Ezzard Charles won the world heavyweight title. He defended it something like 8 times. He beat the great Joe Louis after Louis retired as heavyweight champion. Louis was on the comeback trail. He came back against Ezzard Charles to regain the title. Charles beat him soundly over 15 rounds. And Charles eventually lost the title heavyweight title to Jersey Joe Walcott on a 1-punch knockout. They had a rematch. Most people think Charles won. Walcott got the decision. Then he fought Rocky Marciano twice for the title when Charles was past his prime. First fight, he lost the hard 15-rounder. Marciano had to come on in the late rounds to win the fight. In the second fight, he cut Marciano's nose so badly, they were going to stop the fight soon after, but Marciano got Charles out of there. Charles was at his best as a light heavyweight.
Gotcha.
One of the greatest ever as a light heavyweight, and still a pretty good darn heavyweight champion. So an all-time great, absolutely, as a Charles from the Cincinnati Cobra.
So last birthday, Jack, and we cut out Chuck Knobloch, born in 1967. Let you all know, coming up this Saturday, we will be calling the game for the Connecticut Mustangs in the ECFL, the semi-pro league. So to let you guys know that, be ready to see that. Have a great day, folks. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 8 to 10 a.m. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow.